Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Adrian Lloyd and this is just my stupid opinion. And today I want to talk a little bit about the anti-immigration rally that was held in Quebec City last week, August 20th. The rally was held in Quebec City in protest against the provincial government's handling of the illegal migrant crisis, and also, I suppose, the federal government's handling. And it was organized by a Quebec group known as Meute, which is associated with the far right. But it ended up having its members pinned inside a garage by counter-protesters as they demonstrated outside. So they ended up getting pinned in for about 6 hours in this hot parking garage. Outside, there were different faction of counter-protesters. Some were, well, as always, there's this just regular Joes, the civilian protesters that are out there. But then there was also Black Lives Matter and AntiFa that were present. And of course, wherever AntiFa goes, they just cause shit. AntiFa is the worst thing to happen to the left in recent years. All they've done is cause a lot of violence and drive people in the opposite direction. If you are a thinking human being, you don't associate at all with AntiFa. But I also think if you're a decent thinking human being, you don't associate with the alt-right either. So La Meute, the group that hosted this protest, they received a lot of criticism as being a racist right-wing group. Right-wing, yes. They reject the term racist wholeheartedly, although they do say that they are anti-Islam.
We are not racist. We are just against Islam.
So this group, La Meute, had a permit to protest, but when they went to go get started, there was a large group of counter-protesters. So after this group, La Meute, got pinned inside this parking garage, and things started to slow down in the counter-protest, things must have been getting quite boring for our anti-fascist friends out there, because they started causing a bunch of violence with people. They ended up clashing with police.
Merci.
And even attacked some members of the media. Now you see this guy in the black shirt getting arrested right now. It's funny because before the clashes broke out, he was one person that was appearing on all the different media sources. You can find him in a few different ones: CBC, CTV, Global. They all have him doing an interview.
We are demonstrating against an Islamophobic racist group called La Meute. Less than 7 months since the Quebec City massacre, one of the principal groups that increased the climate of fear and hatred towards Muslims is attempting to demonstrate. They're meeting in this garage. We found out about it despite their so-called security, and we're here to send a loud and clear message of welcome to immigrants and refugees, welcome to Muslims, welcome to Haitians, welcome to migrants, and a message against racism. And that's a message consistent with what's happening all over the United States, what happened in Vancouver yesterday, what happened in Boston. We're also here in sympathy and in solidarity with people in Charlottesville. We need to confront, expose, and get rid of the far right.
So that interview that he gave has been featured on all the different media sources. And then there he is getting arrested, clashing with police. So maybe you aren't the best spokesperson for the far left there, my friend. Antifa always comes with the intention of causing violence. Every time. They always come armed. They're always got firecrackers, smoke bombs, flares, bottles, you name it. And they're always, it's not just towards the police, but they're even doing this to the other protesters, civilians. There's plenty of times where these are civilians that are getting hit, people not involved. They may be just standing on the side of the road watching everything going down, and then they'll get attacked by Antifa. I'm not siding with this group La Meute. I don't know anything about them, but I do know that here Antifa is the one who caused a lot of the violence. Plenty of sources have reported that they're the ones that were fighting with the cops, and they were clearly preventing this group La Meute, who had a permit to protest. They clearly weren't letting them get to their destination. This is a common tactic that Antifa always does. They block them from even getting to where they need to go, and it forces the protesters to get into an actual fight with them. You can see it in many different rallies in the past. It's an aggressive non-aggression tactic where you're forcing them to come at you, but obviously what you are doing is antagonizing them.
You came out in a mask. Why in a mask?
Well, because I don't want to be identified by them,
You don't want
by the racists.
to know who you are.
Yeah.
Now, with the violence on the streets, the wolf pack was stuck. Members were in the parking garage for hours and angry.
They want to make trouble. They search for trouble. But one thing I will tell you, they're gonna find trouble sometime. This is what they want. They want war.
Would that be today?
They want war. They're gonna get war. Bye.
Dozens of anti-fascist protesters dressed in black threw smoke bombs and firecrackers at police who tried to separate the two rallies. The second was a planned right-wing event against the migrant policies of the Canadian government.
There's nothing wrong with showing up at right-wing demonstrations, but there is something wrong with coming there with billboards and placards that you're only carrying for the express purpose of using the stick on which the paper is fastened as a battering ram or as a sword or as a baseball bat to hit your opposing demonstrators. So what seems to be the case here is that especially the Antifa side has been showing up masked and carrying weapons and has been attempting to provoke a crisis.
One of the sides has upped the ante by launching a petition on the White House website calling for Antifa to be declared a terrorist organization. Nearly 140,000 people have already signed in just 3 days, and now the administration has to issue a response.
Yeah, this is the new thing going around that I think everybody should take part in, is that there is a petition going around to recognize Antifa as a terrorist organization, a domestic terrorist one, and I think everybody who lives in America should sign that. Anti-fascist groups have existed in the past, and they've always been the same. They always came in with violence. Two good examples of this were the anti-fascist group that was opposing Hitler's Nazis in the 1930s, and the anti-fascist group that was opposing Mussolini in Italy at around the same time. I think a little bit earlier, maybe about 10 years earlier. Anyway, these two groups were violent groups, and they'd go in with the intention of causing violence, hurting people. And what it did is it drove people to the other side. The two sides would then clash in the streets, and people were forced to choose a side. Now, my guess is similar to today. People watched as the anti-fascist groups of their time would initiate the violence and came in a lot more aggressively than the other side. So they sided with the other group, which turned out to be Mussolini and Hitler. So, we have the alt-right currently, and now we have Antifa fighting back against them. Let's not side with the alt-right, and let's bring Antifa down ourselves, sooner rather than later, before this gets out of hand. I have a feeling that Charlottesville was just the beginning. A lot of people seem to think it was the end. This is just going to keep escalating. More and more rallies are going on. It's spreading. Canada has had this in Quebec, and the day before there was also a rally in Vancouver. That one didn't turn violent, but there weren't Nazis present. There was something like 200 riot cops in Quebec to help break everything up. We're not as bad as everything going on in America right now, but things as well are going to keep escalating in America. Trump held a rally in Phoenix that turned violent as well. So yeah, as this goes on, I do believe that we're going to see these rallies get worse, more violent, and I think more people are going to die before this ends. Thank you for tuning in. I am Adrian Lloyd. This is Just My Stupid Opinion, and I'll see you soon.
You profit from fear and